Hello, class of 2021. My name is Ann Lapour, if you don't know me already, and I am one of the career advisors in the Office of Career Development. And I am here with our last installment of our Life After Woo programming. And today we're going to talk a little bit about decisions. This will be relatively brief, and we do invite you to come to our alumni career panel on May 12th at 4 o'clock to hear some fairly recent Willamette alums talk about their own sort of career journeys and how they got to where they are. So we hope you'll join us for that. But I wanted to talk briefly today just about the process of decision making, because I know it can be sort of an overwhelming time for you all right now. So the first thing to remember is that a career isn't made up of just one decision. So if it helps at all, think of your career and your ongoing career as a collection of decisions that you've made throughout your life, and each one really just builds upon the next. So when you make a decision about whatever you're going to do following your graduation from Willamette, just know that you're not deciding the rest of your life. You're deciding on essentially your first job or your first experience or a graduate program. It's just one decision. And the rest of your career will unfold and build upon those decisions, but you're not deciding the rest of your life right now. Another thing to know, though, is that I don't want it to make it sound like it's not an important decision, because it is. So even though this first job or first experience, internship, whatever you've got lined up for yourself, even if it doesn't define the rest of your life, it's still important and you want to feel prepared. So how can you prepare yourself to make a decision that feels both thoughtful and comfortable? And so I'm going to talk about a few things that I think it's important to keep in mind as you continue your job search, because I'm fully aware that many of you may not have a job lined up yet or an experience lined up yet, and you're still in that process. So here are some things that that you're going to want to think about. So it's always good to revisit your values. So really take stock of your priorities. Do you care most about just frankly where you're going to be geographically? Is the company or organization something that is really foremost in your mind? Do you want to work for an organization that has a very specific kind of mission, or is just the industry itself really, really important to you? Or maybe you don't care as much about the industry or the company or the organization, but the tasks involved in it are really important to you. Maybe there's some very specific skills that you're wanting to build. And I think for me, when I'm working with seniors, I think that going through these different priorities and these different values and sort of trying to figure out where they all rest in terms of your list and what's most important to you is an exercise that we always conduct. And I think that revisiting that and even finding a way to organize those thoughts, maybe making a list, maybe making a spreadsheet of various opportunities, and then where do those opportunities line up in terms of your priorities? You know, is this in the geographic place you want it to be? It's hard to find a job that meets all of your criteria. So it's helpful to know what's at the top of your list and what maybe you could compromise on. And that might help you guide your decision-making process a little bit more. So revisit your values, revisit your priorities, and find a way to organize those thoughts and keep track of them. Okay, another thing to do is to know your decision-making style. So everybody has a sort of a way that they approach big decisions. And it might be helpful for you to think about other big decisions that you've made in your life. Maybe choosing to come to Willamette, maybe something else, maybe whether or not you studied abroad, or something like that. Some kind of big decision. And think about how you typically make decisions. So most people use a combination of processes, but do you like to sort of run your decisions past other people a lot? Do you kind of follow your gut? Do you really rely on data? Do you hate making decisions? And so the only way that you can actually make one is to set a deadline for yourself. Do you like to make lists, pro con lists, that kind of thing? I think when it comes to this decision that you're going to make in your life, whether it's graduate school or a job or an internship or what have you, it's helpful to use a combination of methods. You don't want to necessarily rely 100% on what other people think. You don't necessarily want to rely 100% on your gut. You need to make sure that you do have the data. Does the job have health benefits? Does the job provide a reasonable salary given your geographic location? Things like that. So you want to try to make sure that you're using a balance of all of that, of all of those different strategies when you're making decisions. And then you want to gather the information that you need. And I think this is really important. So gathering information could be something as simple as making sure that you understand what is a fair and reasonable salary for an entry-level marketing position in Boise, Idaho, whatever. You want to make sure that you have that kind of data, that kind of information. Is the job that you're looking at, does it work on a bonus structure? What can you expect to earn? But you also might want to gather information based on more subjective things, like information, that kind of information that you'd gain from an informational interview. Are you thinking about working for a given organization, but you have some questions about their company culture or something like that? So maybe an informational interview with somebody doing that work would be a good idea. Really perusing LinkedIn, company websites, negotiation sites and resources, talking again to a recruiter. Maybe you're thinking about doing something like a teaching program and you want to talk again to the recruiter and make sure you have all your questions answered. Especially there are programs too, like, if it's something like JET or Teacher America or whatever, you can talk to people that are actually doing that work now and see how they like it. LinkedIn is also a really great resource to find Willamette alums doing work that is similar to or the same as what you want to do, and maybe do some informational interviews with them to gather the information that you need and answer any of your unanswered questions. So make sure that you have all the information before you jump into the decisions that you need to make. And so just a few final words. I know this is a really big topic, and so I'm treating it fairly briefly, but I think one thing I think it's important to remember is to take advantage of unexpected opportunities. I know some of you may have really mapped out your future. Maybe you've got a lot of plans over the next few years, but don't be afraid to shake things up every once in a while if a cool opportunity comes along. Remember that careers are rarely linear. So I know people ask you about where you want to be in the future. And I understand why people ask that question, but it's hard to know. And you can have a general plan that you're working towards, but just know that it very seldom moves in a straight line or trajectory. So if you feel like your career is a little more loopy, then you're not alone. And finally, please come see us in career development if you feel like you need to, which brings me to my last point, which is just that we're still here for you after you graduate. So alumni can use career development after graduation for things like resume and cover letter review, for individual advising appointments in addition. So after you've been graduated for 6 months, we really like to book those appointments at non-peak times so that our current students are able to get appointments too, but we can still meet with you. And Handshake remains available to you. So, and you can still book appointments with us that way, or you can always reach out over email is another good way to find us. And again, here's our advising team. We're happy to help you, especially if you're at all struggling with any of these decisions or with your job search. Please know that we're here. And please do join us for the Willamette Alumni Guest Panel. I think sometimes it's really helpful to hear people who have recently been in the position that you're in talk about and reflect upon what they've learned and what has happened for them since graduating from Willamette as well. So that brings me to the end of this little presentation. And, please keep in touch. And honestly, congratulations. It's been a hard year. We know that, and we're here to help you. Thanks. Bye.